this is my slightly more in-depth analysis. This is my slightly more in-depth analysis of the movie Transcendence. So here it is. I'll just go over the plot real quick. Oh yeah, spoilers. All spoilers. This is all spoilers. So if you do not want spoilers, I don't care. Basically, the movie starts out. Paul Bettany goes and he visits his friend's old garden. At this point, he basically gives us the plot points that the internet's down, there's no internet anymore, and both of his friends are probably dead. And the way he words it, they're either dead or they're gone somewhere else. So, outside of this fact, it's a fairly linear movie, but technically it's not linear because of this. And the reason I say that is this prologue completely shapes and shades the rest of our movie viewing experience, because we know that in the end game there's not going to be internet, and probably Johnny Depp and Rebecca Hall are going to die. So Rebecca Hall is Johnny Depp's wife in this movie. So yeah, but anyways, it goes back. There are all these artificial intelligence companies. They get attacked by this terrorist group. They get killed. Johnny Depp gets shot with a radioactive bullet, and so he's forced to die. This is a catalyst that causes them to upload his consciousness into an artificial intelligence before he dies. And then, blah, blah, blah. What else? Oh yeah, it gets uploaded. Paul Bettany doesn't want it put on the internet. Rebecca Hall does. They argue. Paul Bettany leaves. Paul Bettany gets captured by the terrorists. Rebecca Hall uploads Johnny Depp to the internet. They bicker, fight. Johnny Depp gains super sentience, at which point, blah, blah, blah. Oh yeah, he makes all these discoveries. He starts improving human biology, anatomy, so on and so forth, blah, blah, blah. What else? Oh yeah, Paul Bettany joins the terrorists. Morgan Freeman's in there, but he doesn't really need to be there. He's just kind of there like, hey, I'm Morgan Freeman. Morgan Freeman, Morgan Freeman. I'm thirsty. Not Morgan Freeman, me. I'm thirsty. I don't know what Morgan Freeman drinks. So, yeah. Anywho, set this by my unfolded clean laundry. It's clean. Oh. Anyways, they scale an all-out attack because they think that Johnny Depp is going to make one machine out of planet Earth to forcefully link everyone's minds, blah, blah, blah. And they think that it's not even Johnny Depp, that his character, when he died, and that what's masquerading as him is the artificial intelligence PINN, P-I-N-N, which, blah, blah, blah. In the end of the movie, it turns out that it really was him. It was his consciousness. That he wasn't actually trying to destroy the world and end humanity. He was actually fixing the world. He was purifying the waters. He was taking out the pollution. He was healing people. So that's the end game of it. So I'm going to go through some stuff. Starting at the ending. Well, the way the movie tilted it in the end, when he was basically trying to heal the world and it was basically misdirect. At the very beginning, they introduced the concept of PINN, which was the artificial intelligence that they merged his consciousness with. Now, they later on in the movie suggested by Paul Bettany that this was not actually Johnny Depp's character, it was PINN masquerading as Johnny Depp. And so that was reinforced throughout the movie with basically a lot of cool stuff, one of which was common knowledge of artificial intelligence movies, which we already think as soon as we think artificial intelligence, evil, 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 or we think of the Haley Joel Osment movie, then we think terrible, terrible, terrible. But yeah, so our view was slated to think that he was evil in this, that he was this power-wanting, race-ending superintelligence, and that wasn't the case, because he was not actually an artificial intelligence. He was an actual consciousness loaded into an artificial intelligence. Another example of this is Lawnmower Man, except then Lawnmower Man was pretty much evil, although that can be debated. But yeah, but they had a cool misdirect, because you're thinking throughout this movie, it's not Johnny Depp, it's not Johnny Depp, it's this pin, it just wants power, and they proof this with a statement at the very beginning that a TED Talk-like event, and Johnny Depp's wife walks out there and she says, you know, with technology we could cure the earth, we could heal diseases, we could purify the waters, blah, blah, blah. And then Johnny Depp walks out there and he says, you know what, my wife wants to save the world, I just want to understand it a little bit better. And later on, whenever Paul Bettany has retrieved Rebecca Hall, and he's talking to her, he says, you know, he never wanted to change the world. He even said it, you know. He's like, he just wanted to understand it. You are the one that wanted to change the world. And that's what convinces her, and most of us, that this is not, in fact, Johnny Depp's character. It's Pym, the artificial intelligence, and it's evil, and it's going to take over the world. That's the main power behind this misdirect. Because it turns out in the movie, if you watch it, that the artificial intelligence was the consciousness of Johnny Depp. The thing was, he was changing the world for his wife. She was the one that wanted to change the world and make it better, and he was fixing it for her as an act of love. So, yeah. So there's that Uncanny Valley. They have a lot of projections, a lot of computer-generated graphics of Johnny Depp that aren't done, because they could have just had him the entire time. They could have had the actual Johnny Depp on the screen, on a computer screen, and they could have had it rendered 100% perfectly. They even could have CGI'd it perfectly, but they did a little bit off, because there's this thing called the Uncanny Valley, which you probably know about. If you don't, it's where something looks human but slightly not human. That's a terrible example, but it pretty much disturbs anyone who looks at it. You're like, this doesn't look right. A good example of this is movies like Polar Express, where like, hey, that looks really human. So much human, but not human. It's just a little off. This is weird. This doesn't make sense. So they use that to force your perspective and think, hey, he's actually evil. He's going to try and take over the world. But he isn't. I really like that. The movie itself, I'm jumping around here. This isn't planned. I literally just watched the movie and am making this as fast as I can for reasons. Mainly manic energy. Where did I put my Dr. Pepper? The movie doesn't have a fixed narrative, and what I mean by that is that, yes, I'm stalling. The movie doesn't have a fixed narrative. It sort of jumps around. And no, just because it has a narrator does not mean it has a fixed narrative. What I mean by that is Paul Bettany narrates the beginning, the intro, the prologue. Doesn't mean it has a fixed narrative. It jumps around and shows you what it wants you to see to, again, force your perspective. So I'm actually going to need to write this down for my future notes. It forces your perspective in multiple ways. One, a non-fixed and non-linear narrative. I'm a very slow writer. I'm a terrible writer too. But it has a non-fixed and non-linear narrative which forces your perspective, again, to think the worst. What else? It uses the Uncanny Valley again, to force your perspective. So that's three things where we got there, forcing our perspective. And it has, what else does it have? Oh yeah, it has a common pool of knowledge working in its favor. And the common pool of knowledge is basically, give me a second. Okay, the common pool of knowledge is what we've already seen. We've seen, well, it's not we, because we haven't watched everything yet. I dropped paper on my foot and I thought it was a cockroach or snake or something. Sorry. Common pool of knowledge. Basically, most people have seen some amount of movies and TV, and they know about HAL from 2001. They know about the evil robot at the end of iRobot. Again, spoilers. The robot at the end of iRobot is evil. But they know about that. They know about just basic movies in general. I've named a couple already. I can't remember them because I forgot them already. But in general, artificial intelligence makes us think evil. Then there's hive mindset, which they attribute in this movie, which is he inseminates these people with nanobots, and then he has complete and total control over them. So even though he was trying to save the world, and even though he may have been trying to save humanity too, he even said that he was going to save them with Transcendence, and in the end he didn't kill a single person, like at all. There was still a chance they may have taken away the world's free will, which is pretty terrible. But yeah, we're just given this general feeling without even the movie showing us anything. They just say artificial intelligence, we think, okay, evil, because of these other movies. But yeah, the movie also had religious tones, themes, archetypes, and tropes, in that he performs these miracles. He heals a blind man that's straight up out of the Bible, so on and so forth. And at the end he ends up sacrificing himself. However, in this version, when he sacrifices himself, it's more or less the damnation of the world, because he's no longer going to be curing the earth, fixing everything, and the internet's gone, the stock market's crashing, there's not really going to be hospitals, power grids, stuff like that. So the entire world is pretty much in a worse state than the Great Depression. This is like the greatest depression. So that's pretty bad. What else? This is going pretty long. Religious, oh yeah, Mark of Cain type stuff. People, whenever they accept the Cain, blah, blah, blah. Antichrist figure. So it's using religious themes to, again, force your perspective. So I'm going to use that. Although that would kind of be under the common pool of knowledge. So overall, it was a very enjoyable movie. I liked it a lot. And oh, I almost forgot one of my favorite parts. Two of my favorite parts. One, and I think I might have said this already, I don't know, but I'm going to say it again for good measure. They do a very realistic rendition of brainwashing. They kidnap Paul Bettany and they torture him over a long period of time. And you can look up the steps behind brainwashing. They do it verbatim. And yeah, they brainwash him until he's on their side, which at first you don't realize it. So if you're looking for the brainwashing, you should know. And you know all the steps behind it. You know at that instant, Paul Bettany should not be with these terrorists. He's being tortured into believing them, so on and so forth. Like, it is straight up brainwashing what they do to him. They torture him over a long period of time. They give him an out. They make him guilty about his participation. They tell him about his own beliefs, his possible redemption. This is all like textbook brainwashing. And another thing I really liked was the little slip in there for the nerds, a little bit of fan service. Whenever Rebecca Hall is going to check into a hotel, her reservation is under the name Turing. And Alan Turing was the man who created the first computer. So that was a really, really clever thing. But what I really liked about it, best of all, is that they don't explain it. It's not like there's a scene with the FBI, it was under the name Turing, that's the man that created the computer. No, they just leave it in there. If you get it, you get it. If you don't, you don't. I loved it. Thought it was fantastic. Love this movie. I'd probably watch it more than once a year. So that is my in-depth analysis of the movie Transcendence. Might make another one of these later. Probably not. So.